I'll hear about it in a minute.
Yeah. Oh, no, it'll be at HOFT,
Right.
their campus. Yeah, near like Pearl, I think, on 24th, something like that.
This one.
Yeah.
Trouble.
Maybe I got her in trouble.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so that's going on.
In this one case.
My own stuff is actually coming along, sort of.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Good to see you.
I'm actually building out levels, but then discovering a million things that need to get done. So at some point, hopefully in the end of the year, I'll have some actual playable levels.
Do you use like Trello or something?
Yeah, I use Asana.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do like Asana for bug tracking and feature tracking, and I've done some Trello, but I think Asana works a little bit better. Yeah, it's not as good as Jira, but like,
Yeah.
it's free, so it's nice. Yeah, and then I do Bitbucket because I don't know. I just don't get it up. So
Great.
it's easier to have private repos.
Yeah, definitely.
People are gonna come in as they come in, but it's just.
Yeah. I'll go up there.
Yeah, I'll be in front of the camera.
Yeah. What's up? Yeah.
United Front. Well, at present, it's difficult to know how many people are looking, but I did just post a Facebook Live video feed to our Facebook. Eventually, this will go on YouTube. But right now, welcome everyone who's made it out tonight, braving the traffic and making it all the way downtown, and all the things you could be doing. You're spending your evening with us. My name is John Henderson. I'm the program coordinator for the Game Design and Development Lab at HOFT Institute, which in a very short order will be a new vocational program devoted to game development. And with me are two of the instructors who will be teaching design and programming directly. We recently announced our art teacher who will be hopefully coming with us soon, but introduce yourselves, please.
Hi, I'm Chip Spragna. I'm lead designer at Other Side Entertainment right now, working on System Shock 3. I'm going to be helping out on the design side, teaching our students everything they need to know about design.
And I'm Sarah Abraham. Most of you know me. For the few who don't, I teach at UT. My background is graphics, and I do a lot of like the game engine related classes. But for this, I'm gonna hopefully be focusing less on sort of the more deep technical skills and more about getting programmers, just working on larger systems, understanding how these pieces will fit in with design and artists, and basically not just giving them the technical skills, but the other skills they'll need to actually work on in a company in a reasonable way. And I think that's kind of the heart of this program. So yeah, vocational rather than necessarily university track.
Just so I remind myself is that we actually do have a sign-in sheet on there, and also if you would like to make a badge for yourself so people know who you are and get conspicuous, you can do it. Just do it before we leave. But let's expand on that thought, the idea of game development as a vocation. Jim, how long have you been making games?
Just under 20 years.
Have you used that term before to describe what you do, vocation?
No, I have not.
I mean, it's one of those terms, like Sarah said, there's academic training, there's specific skills training for lots of different things. This is the idea that this is really the kind of training that will get you a job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what we find is that a lot of students coming out of universities and class programs, they have the skills, but they don't understand necessarily what goes into actually producing a game and working on a team. There's a lot of game jam type things, small teams where like there's the designer and the programmer and the artist, and they come together and work something. But when you actually go into a studio to create a game, you are one of however many programmers or one of however many designers, and your job might be, you are working on, you're an artist and you're going to work on hair, and that's it. Or you're a designer and you're going to work on the collision for this map, and that's it. For a long time before you move move up through the ranks and get to where you're going. So it's a bit of a reality check. It's a bit of seeing what the process is like. We're going to actually ship stuff in this class and get it out there and get it online, and you're going to see what that feels like to have your work out there and have gamers playing it and see what their reaction is and how you are then going to react to that. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Let's expand on that, Sarah, because obviously you have some students that might have some preconceived notions about what awaits them after they graduate. What kind of conversations do you have with them?
Yeah, so I mean, the programming track tends to be slightly different from art and design in that as a programmer you can get a job, but you won't necessarily get a game dev job right out of college. Generally because notice there's like the people on this side I'll know and the people I don't know, so I'm gonna mostly look at you guys. Hope you don't mind everyone I do know. But as many of you know, if you've worked in the industry, having a ship title is way more important than a lot of other things. So it's a chicken and an egg problem. You don't have a ship title, you can't prove that you can work on a larger system. You might have a collection of game jams, but you don't know how to present those to actually showcase your skill set. So again, students sometimes come out with a pretty solid set of skills, but as Chip said, the finishing skills, the ability to polish beyond kind of the initial concept and get sort of into the nitty gritty of development and suffering through this like single task that must get done, I think is a little bit, sometimes can be jarring for students. So again, we're hoping to present this sort of concept in a little bit more controlled of an environment to sort of like ease them into that, but also still give them the experience of what functionally will be an outsourcing studio. So, again, we're both recruiting students and we're hoping to recruit companies. This will be functionally a way for companies to help mentor incoming members of the game dev community and giving them an opportunity to work on something real rather than, a project we get to design and I make the design doc and it's my project and I'm the visionary. No, it's more about working for somebody else's vision and fulfilling that to the fullest of their ability.
It's probably worth pointing out that we're not couching this program as any kind of indictment of the way things are right now, none of the programs that are teaching people useful skills, nor of the existing studios.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that,
I still teach at
That's
UT.
right.
I still teach computer science, and I'm part of the Gamma program, so I work directly with students who are building their own game. You were in Gamma, weren't you, or did you just do Game Tech? I can't remember.
I'm in game.
Yeah, so like, in the capstone for Gamma program, you get to build your own game, and that's great. I really like the fact that students get to work on a project of their dreams. They get to decide whether game dev is for them or not for them. But I think that is not necessarily going to be a sufficient capstone to necessarily get a job. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's really going to depend.
Yeah, when I look to hire people, it's not necessarily about what programs they've gone through or what degrees they have or what certificates they have. It's more about what games they've shipped, what they've worked on, what they have to show, or the skills that they have. And that's what we're hoping to provide our students here, is something you can point to and say, look at this, this is online, you can go play this right now. This is being sold in a real game program, game distribution system, and that's what I've worked on. So that chicken and egg problem where you can't get hired if you haven't worked on something, but you can't work on something if you don't get hired, we're hoping to bridge that gap.
And there's even a more fundamental chicken and egg problem. We don't yet know who our students are, because this is kind of our coming out party. Our website is live. We have information about it, got it on the board behind me if you haven't looked at it. And really our branding is at square one. So hopefully everyone here finding out from us, you can each one teach one. Tell other people about this, because this is going to start in very short order. We have 3 major holidays between now and when this is all going to start. So, how many here have heard of the HOFT Institute before tonight? Staff doesn't count. Okay. Well, some of you I know have been going to UT, and it's actually within 6-block walk of West Campus. It's in Fraternity Row, but it's been around since the 80s and has mostly been about tutoring. It was actually founded as House of Tutors. quite a lot of foreign-born and non-English native speakers receive extra tutoring there, but this is actually its first venture into vocational training, and its first vocation is game dev. So again, that's part of why I was asking you pointed questions, to get a reaction on that. The idea of vocational training for game development, but I am curious about the perspective of this from people that have worked as long as you have, and Sarah, who's in the halls of academia. Is it just a problem of the amount of time that they have within a 4-year degree? I mean, is the opportunity there for them to conceivably have it? Because I do encounter a lot of people who are either in school or about to graduate or even have graduated, and they ask me, well, what opportunities are there to get on a big project? And I will often say, go out and get on a game jam. And I know that there's some limitations for that. But
Well, again, I think the biggest difference is, like, again, in academia, specifically, what I'm doing is I'm encouraging students to explore their interests, sort of self-actualize, and all these other great things that college and university specifically offers. But that means that when a team is making a game, and when they decide the game is made, the game is made. And that's honestly as far as it'll go, because realistically speaking, if they're like, I'm happy with the state the game is in, they're not actually gonna wanna do more than that, because they're happy. This is very different than if you have a job, because sometimes you don't get to decide when it's done. You need to keep doing it until the person, your product manager, whoever else is happy. And, you know, we could, I think it would be inappropriate to sort of take that idea and put it into a university setting, because again, I do actually think university and vocational training is different, but in a vocational setting, I think it's very appropriate to be much more hardline and be like, no, I don't like how that looks. Polish it up. I think that this needs to be improved. Clean up this, you know, basically all the small tweaks that you will be expected to accomplish in a job, we will be expecting of our students to accomplish in our program.
Yeah, you've got a client in this job, you know, somebody to report to, somebody who's paying the bills, who wants that asset you're creating, or wants that, you know, bit of code that you're writing. And that's the environment we want to have our students in, and that's what we want you to learn from. You know, when I look to hire people, it's sometimes difficult to take a risk on a student, even if they have the skills. I don't know that a student is going to be okay with me giving direction, or accepting that direction, or even just if that student's going to find right out of school that, you know, this isn't actually what I want to do, because it's completely different than I thought it was going to be. And yeah, that's what we're hoping to show you, and we're hoping to bridge that gap to give students that experience to let them decide if they want to go further, and also to give the studios a chance to say, okay, yes, this person has proven that they can do this, and that they want to do this, and that they fit into the environment, and they're either already doing work for us because we're outsourcing with them, or they've shown us this thing that they built that's actually a part of a real game. And so, yes, you know, the person's been proven.
so let's talk about the other side of that, because you just mentioned it, the studio side. This isn't something that studios typically do, and really if they did, there probably wouldn't be such a need for this program. They don't reach out quite as much, they don't have the resources to. Yeah, because they're expected. What if they actually regarded this program or anything as sort of an apprenticeship or an outsourcing house? What would it take to do that? And what would they need? We have a third instructor.
Hi,
Mary Grayson.
sorry, I was having issues finding you. I walked right out of the hotel.
I know where it is.
I am Mayette Andreasen. I currently am a full-time instructor at a local college here in town. I teach in media arts and animation and game art and design. My background is in games. I worked at 2K Sports, worked at Zynga.
Very good.
Just meeting and greeting.
Hi, nice to meet you all.
Well, like I said, I'm fascinated by the idea that this could exist. I'm wondering what the sales pitch would have to be, in part because that might be part of my job, to make the connection for the studios and say, well, we need you to take control of your pipeline such that there is work that can be funneled to our students that obviously, we're going to have some, yeah. In our case, we're going to be vetting them, at least to get in the program.
Mhm.
And after a few months of an initial lecture, we're going to put them to work. At what point do studios decide that that's a good idea?
Well, I don't know, this may be airing our dirty laundry, but I think right now, smaller studios, you know, sort of less AAA space, those tend to be a little bit more flexible. But the idea would be that once we can prove ourselves, we can look, you know, it's like, you know, Ringling School of Art has a reputation of putting out good artists, right? So, you know, somehow they built that reputation, but at some point you had to start from square one, and we're sort of in that place. But you know, I do believe we can build it up, a lot of grassroots connections, and then when, you know, it's proven in, you know, maybe a mobile game, maybe a smaller indie game, then I think AAA studios might start to take notice. You know, there's a lot of, my experience in the Austin game community is it's a very friendly community. They are all about, they want to mentor people, they want to engage, they can't for financial and risk reasons. So if we can, as instructors, mitigate that risk, I think there'd be a lot of interest. I hope I speak for somewhat truly when I put those words in your mouths.
And I think you're right, we're in a great city for something like this to blossom.
Excellent. Well, what about the instructors too? And Maya, please join in on this, but because you're an instructor yourself, and imagine that you're, let's stereotype a bit, the person who wants to become a game developer, oftentimes loves the idea of creating a new world that they can control because they don't deal with reality that well, especially other people.
Yeah.
So the idea of saying, hi, my name's John, I want to be a game artist, that's tough, right?
Yeah.
Did they learn that in school?
Well, that actually, at our particular school, that is one of the things that Zach's actually says we definitely have to work on, because we do have a lot of introverts at our school.
Yeah.
So we have like a whole public speaking rubric that certain classes are targeted at. And so in a lot of the classes, fellow instructors and myself try and work in assignments where they have to speak. So for example, lately I just totally restructured a class, and I have my students, I kind of flipped some of the assignments where my students stand up and they have to present, or they have to teach a technique. Like I'll show them kind of a starting point, and then for their homework, they have to research that technique and a different way to do it, and then I pick them at random and they have to present in class. If they're not prepared, they get a 0 participation for that day.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Because that does translate to, you know, work environment.
It
You have to
does.
be able to use, you know, plain English to describe what it is you're doing.
Yeah,
Which
some
is,
of them did a great job. Like some of the people I did not expect to do well, did really well. Like really quiet people who don't normally speak up in class. And they were actually really able to present the technique very well to their colleagues. So I think that maybe those are some of the things that would have to be implemented too. I mean, hopefully in this program, we've got people who are extremely serious at this point. They're like, I really want a job. I'm not finding the job. So they already, you know, starting have the certain fundamentals. So it's like, okay, here's the soft skills, here's getting some experience, here's learning how to communicate with people effectively.
Yeah, no, it's, well, I'm remembering other things that I haven't brought up, that this is not actually going to be a very long program. It's starting in January, but it'll be ending in August. It's only going to be 8 months, but this will be an intensive 8 months, because it's going to be about, there's going to be a lot of homework, but the homework is going to be assigned tasks that they have to complete as part of the program. Another thing that we're not entirely sure of is the specialties of the students themselves. Sarah, maybe I could get you to tell me about, in regards to the engineering students that you have. It's hard for me to imagine someone who actually graduated from UTCS who can't get a job at games.
You know, it happens.
It happens?
It just really depends. Like, we have students sort of all over the map. Like, one of our students got a job at like Insomniac as a program, like as an engine developer, pretty much right off the bat, because he's really good in C++, right? But that's honestly not because UT gave him those skills. He just happened to be so passionate about C++ that he like lived and breathed it, and he loved graphics. You know, but you know, that's going to be sort of an extreme case. Then we have, you know, developers who get, you know, intro design and programming jobs. But then sometimes there are actually quite skilled programmers, but they're not necessarily going to click. They're not able to sell themselves. So they can get, like, there's enough software engineering that you can certainly find a job somewhere, but being able to sell your skills and say, hey, this is what I'm good at, here's a project I made in my spare time. It's not necessarily for a class, or if it is for a class, look at how much I went beyond, you know, the necessary requirements. I think that sometimes is lacking, and that's just, again, you know, it's not even necessarily the ability, it's just the presentation, all the things that, you know, Chip might be looking for. You know, he doesn't want to take a risk on somebody who again has, you know, solid programming skills but no other real ability to work on a team, and we don't inherently teach that at UT. I try, but
Only so many
but
hours
it's
a day. It's a good point though, and one we should bring up. We aren't planning on teaching the core skills for game making, like basic programming, design, and art. We expect our students to already have a background in that from one of the many programs that are already available out there. This is more of a, you know, take your skills and learn how to apply them in a real world setting.
Which I think is really good. Like we have a student at the, I teach at the Art Institute of Austin, and one of our students really super talented, and it took him 2 years to find a job. And it's because he really wanted a job in this thing. Everybody tried to tell him, including his friends who got jobs in the industry, they're like, you know, you can take an entry-level job in this, and then that's what I did, and now I'm doing the thing that you want to do. But he just didn't want to hear it, and he was really bad at interviews. Like, he did a mock interview with me, and he knows me, and it was horrible.
You wouldn't hire him.
Yeah, I was like, dude, you gotta line up. So this is a great program, I think. That you
Yeah.
guys are.
And just as like sort of to elaborate a little bit more, the first 2 months will be, you know, assessing students, making sure they have the core skills that they need to succeed. The main body of the course, 6 months, will be going over just again working on projects, hopefully from other companies around Austin. I'm an indie developer, so worst case I can put them to work. There's plenty of things I need done. And then eventually the last couple weeks will be all about portfolio building and interview process. So actually going over intensively like portfolio critique, resume critique, and then mock interviews. You know, I can't speak for art or design, but like, okay, let's talk about the code interview. Like, not to say that we're, you know, that's actually a really important skill, and I don't think we ever really talk about that at UT. We kind of expect students to go get internships, and if they do, then they have those skills. But it's entirely possible to go through the entire college, leave the school, be a great programmer, and then just bomb every single whiteboard interview because, you know, you're not used to getting in front of people and like thinking on the fly, and you know, it's gonna be, and I know, and like, there's only 4 types of questions they're ever gonna ask you in a code interview, but if you don't know what those are, you're gonna be really nervous and be like, oh God, depth first search, I haven't done that in a long time, right? So you just gotta know what you're gonna, you just like bam, 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 I can reverse a string, let me do a depth first search, right, whatever, just study it, but you need to know to do that, and that's part of what we'll teach, and design and art will also teach you the specific things they'll be looking for in those interviews.
Well, you think about coming right out of an academic schooling, they're used to having right and wrong answers. But in interviews, it's not about that. The
Showing
interviewer
the
just
process.
they want to know how you think,
Yes.
how you can communicate with other people. What kind of person are you? It's not just what you can do. It is what about you can demonstrate, but also you demonstrating yourself.
I still can't interview.
Yeah, you skipped it. Yeah, you're fine now. Once you have enough experience, you don't need to anymore, right?
But maybe I'll learn something.
But people know who you are. I mean, again, you could possibly demonstrate it if you have the opportunity to do it, but if no one knows you. Again, kind of what Man says, I actually do several social events for game developers on a regular basis, and occasionally I'll get students. And the last one we had last week, in fact, these 3 guys came in, and I can kind of peg them. I haven't seen them before, and they're only talking amongst each other. They were not art institute students, and I'm the host, so everyone's wanting to talk to me. I didn't really get a chance to get up to them. And when I finally did, they said, "We're 3D artists. We're about to graduate.
Yeah.
Our instructor told us to come."
Yeah.
It's like, I hope your instructor told you to come before now. And if he
Yeah.
didn't, why didn't you? Because if you guys
They're
can
so
be-
scared.
Well, that's right.
They're so scared to come. I think people are lions.
Yeah, but you know what? You have to be around lions to get used to lions.
I know.
Right.
They're terrified. I tell students, I'm sure you do. Like, you gotta go to events, you gotta network, you gotta talk to people.
Well,
So.
and actually, I reached out to one of his instructors, and the instructor's base reaction to me was to say, "Well, I hope they didn't cause too much trouble." I'm like, "No, I didn't cause any trouble." I just was flabbergasted that these guys are about to graduate, and I mean, I gave them all my business card and begged them all to mail me because I think they might be good for this program.
Mhm.
One of them did, and he had an ArtStation link in his signature file, and I looked it up, and it's got like 10 models on it, which is
Mhm.
probably all he was able to get done in his coursework.
Mhm.
I mean, how much more hustle should we expect people to have outside of the classwork? I mean, for those they're hiring, I mean, I think they need a lot of hustle, right?
Yeah, well, it's like anything, that you need a certain level of drive, but I think a lot, this is just a hypothesis, I could be completely wrong, so don't think that I really know what I'm talking about right now, but my hypothesis kind of is that I think a lot of students are taught, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this in school, you graduate, you'll get a job.
Yeah.
And they think that okay, if I do okay, or alright in school, then I will just get a job. And they don't understand that it is a job to get a job, and then you actually have to work even harder to get the job than you did in school. And so I think that's where maybe the disconnect comes from.
Do you think that games are specific to this? Because again,
No,
if you're-
I think it's in every
it's everything.
field. Yeah.
I mean, when you're playing games, you're going into an escapism.
Yeah.
You're fooling
No,
yourself.
I
and
think
thinking-
it's every field, to
Okay.
be honest. I mean, some people are different from others, but I kind of see in this kind of, it's kind of an expected thing, like, oh, well, if I work hard and I do this and I do
Yeah.
that, then I'll get this.
You have class requirements for your degree, and
Mhm.
that's what you're there for, but
Yeah.
if you wanna get a job, that's a different thing.
It is, and a lot of students don't really take the portfolio or career development classes very seriously. They just look at it as a required class that they have to take. They don't understand that the resume, oh, yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, God, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine.
The question I have is, if you're currently in a position that you feel like you're stymied,
Mhm.
and you're not moving up in the ranks in the game industry, would this program be useful to you?
Yeah, that would be the goal. I mean, we've talked about this a lot now. Now the trick is, QA is, there's a lot of talented people in QA, and QA is only production track at this point, pretty much. So if you get into QA and you're a talented artist or a talented programmer, you're probably it's gonna be a hard fight to get out of that and into programming, art, design track. So obviously QA is hard because you don't make a lot of money, but like, I think, the goal of this program ultimately would be like, let's help those people sort of develop their skills to the point that they could come back to the company they're already working at and be like, hey, I actually have the design skills you're looking for. Maybe that would be something that would be possible. And I think that at least to me is a very important goal, to really help people move along the track they want to be in.
I think this program will be good too, because I think a lot of times people feel like they need permission to ask for things for themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they don't understand that, hey, I should show my boss the work that I've been doing on the side, or like outside of work. Like, oh, look, I'm doing this, or they can ask, hey, I heard there's this position open for character. This is what I've been doing. What, can I apply for the job? They don't even think that is a viable option when it is. So I think this program will help people understand that you have permission to ask.
Again, shy people, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a presentation to make tonight, and we'll be available to speak later. And actually, we have some representatives from our partners at Skill Fund to talk about options for funding the tuition for this program, which we'll do after our presentation. But what do you think, Joe?
Sure, okay. How much time do I have?
30 minutes.
Oh, okay. This is gonna be
Gotta
good.
hurry.
Actually, no, you.
Okay, I can, it'll be fine.
Very good.
See you all.
Chip's birthday, everyone.
Hey, John. Just so I'm not playing with the windows. Alright. Okay, so, hi everybody, I'm Chip. Basically what I'm gonna do here is run you through, let me back up. I was in charge of the puzzle design for the main paths on Rise of the Tomb Raider, from Square Enix, and I am going to run you through one of the main puzzle spaces in that title, and basically just explain to you some of the choices we made and why we made them. And this is the kind of stuff that And so this is the kind of stuff that you will be learning in this class as you make your game and make the decisions you have to make. You're going to be thinking about the exact same things that you see in this level, and this is what we're gonna show you. So this is just a video I took off YouTube. I didn't make this myself, and I just lost my mouse when I put this. Is this a mouse?
That should be.
Sorry. That's all right. I'll do it. There we go. Okay, so this is just a video I pulled off YouTube. It's not anything I recorded. So this is actually one of our customers who is playing through the game. So you're going to see how they play through this level, what they are doing. I'm going to explain why they're doing what they're doing, how we guided them to do the things we wanted them to do, and yeah, just how we went from there. So I'm just going to play this. You're going to see raw footage of a real gamer, and we'll go from there. So, all right, to start, actually, let me set it up a little bit first, sorry. Okay, so if you look at this map, this is from the strategy guide. We are in this room right here, and we are actually overlooking a window that looks into this room here. And we're about to go down this hallway here into this space and then this space. And that's all you need to know for now. I'm going to reference this map a little bit moving on, but so here we go. All right, so we start this sequence.
An old mural and those vessels. Quick fire.
Everybody hear that? Okay. So Lara's going down this hallway. This is what we call what I call a haunted hallway. It's intended 100% for story delivery. There's nothing you can do in here except walk forward and see the environment. But the environment's actually telling the story as you go through it. It's very confined. You can see there was a big battle here. You know that it was recent because that dude just jumped out at you. It scares you. It's a cheap scare, but it's also giving you a lot of info. She just mentioned she heard something. She doesn't know what that is. That's a setup for something later.
They're still filled with Greek fire.
At this point in the game,
Still burn.
Greek
Those
fire is
vessels are
something
still
relatively
full.
new.
If I could ignite them.
So she's talking to herself, saying what's going on. Now you'll notice this was a puzzle nugget. I'm going to pause this for a second. So here what we did is we had the barrel set up in front of this barrier. We've seen these barrels before. They burned, but they didn't explode. Now with this new substance in them, the Greek fire, you shoot them, they explode. All we're doing is we're setting up that mechanic. So now as you go further into the game, you know what these barrels do. There's nothing more to it. That's all this was about. But you'll also notice that when we did this, we drastically changed the environment. Everything's on where before everything was dark and creepy. It's now starting to burn. It's getting smoky. That's also set up for something you're going to see soon coming on. So that hallway was all about setup. It was about leading you down into something. You'll notice here she's interacting with this thing here. There's stuff littered all over the game you can read about and get more background on it. This player doesn't do that. That was the only time you're going to see this player do that, but that's okay. It's about player choice. So we're dropping down into this space. You can see it's framed up the way you come down in. That you immediately know where you need to go. She is using you'll see when the screen kind of goes black and white, that it's kind of a hint system you can opt into where you know that you're going. It shows you the things of interest that you can interact with. So we lead Lara right up these steps, right to this MacGuffin. Doesn't matter what it is. And we'll let this play out.
This is it.
Okay. So we just had a very slow, very methodical path down into darkness through the story. You're learning a lot about what's going on. You lead up to this spot. We actually, it was a bit of a trap. We lead the player straight to this spot, to the thing they want to get. And if I switch back here, this was the haunted hallway we came down. This is where the puzzle nugget was, where we learned about the exploding green fire barrels. And then you drop down into this space, and this is where that important MacGuffin was. Now, we change the scenario. All of a sudden, this is about combat. It's fast-paced, it's crazy. Lara is trapped over here. So this is one type of combat. Sorry, normally I do this talk and I ask lots of questions, but I don't have time. So please interrupt me if you have any questions or anything. So what you're going to notice now is that she's staying over here where that MacGuffin was. And that's something we very much planned. Now, if you look around, you'll see the soldiers, or the enemies, are all dropping in from various spots, and it's very clear where they're coming from. They have the laser beams in front of them. They call out where they are. Second, you're about to see. Sorry, this is a little boring. So when she comes down into the main space, she's very much uncovered. And that is intentional. It's a way that we try to guide the player to certain areas of cover that we're trying to use to go through this battle.
Or ignore.
Or ignore, yeah. But you'll see she does learn. She's running around. She's using the pillars. I made that before. To save time. Okay.
She's tanky.
Yeah. Alright, so here we go. She's now figuring out that, okay, the safest spot is where I left. This type of combat scenario was designed as a shooting game. So when you're up here, you're on higher ground, you're safer, you've got this perfect cover, you can see exactly where your enemies are, and you can take them out one by one. Now you'll also notice, while this encounter is going on, we're very much changing the environment. So the environment itself changes and adapts and becomes more interesting as the encounter happens. So where at the beginning, it was very dark and open, the smoke really clouds everything in, the fire is lighting everything up, it's changing the environment. And all of these pillars and things that you see in the background were intact before and become destroyed and become more cover that she can use if she chooses to go out. So where the environment is not safe for her at first, the more the environment goes on, if these enemies start to surround her, it's actually safer for her to go out later. So let's see if this schedules up. So, sorry.
Is that all the dudes?
The music changed, I think so.
Yeah, when the encounter's over, the music does change, and you can see this a little better in the next room, and I'll point it out. But you'll notice that she's opting into the crouch. But once the encounter is officially over and it's safe, she does put her gun away, and that is just a signal to the player that okay, this encounter is done. I don't need to worry about enemies anymore. All right, so what I want to actually do is take a look at this space. It's very smoky. Everything's on fire. I want to rewind a little bit and just show you what it looked like at the start. Yeah. Okay. So there it is. Very, very different environment. And there's one more thing I want to point out, which is right here at the beginning. Which is, I mentioned that if the player who pays attention can see exactly where all the enemies are coming from and knows where they are, gives Lara a huge advantage. Look at that door in the back. See how the enemies are breaking through with the flare that they're using to come through the door? They're showing the player exactly where the next threat is coming from. So the player who is observant is going to know a lot more than the person who's just running around. So anyway, I'll skip forward now, but those are the kinds of things when you are building your game in our class that I will be helping mentor you to make these decisions, to figure out what is best for your encounter, for your game. Skip ahead a little. Sorry?
It's a lot to think about.
Oh, is it too much?
No, it's great.
Okay, so now you'll notice where Lara was trapped before, when she first came into this room, she had her back against the wall, we had the shooting gallery set up. She had no exit because she dropped into that room. That same door that the enemies use the flare to come through is now the exit. So you had to fight through those enemies to even make any more progress. So we're now moving into that room that they came from. And this room was designed as a very different style of combating. Now you'll notice right off the bat, all those soldiers drop in right in the middle. You know exactly where they are. But in this situation, there's no shooting gallery. Or, well, we start off with a little bit of shooting gallery, I'll say, to kind of give you a false sense of security. But you'll notice something very different about this. First of all, they don't know where Lara is. And that's intentional. They're moving very slow. Whereas in the last room, they were moving much quicker. They knew exactly where you were. Here, it's more, the environment is more, we're forcing Lara out into the environment to have to engage these enemies to surround them. And in doing that, we make them a little stupider. we make them slower. We make them lose track of you a little bit faster. You'll notice the environment here, where in the previous room we just had the walls burning and stuff for effects. In this room, everything you want to use as cover is going to set on fire. And the more you use it, the sooner it will set on fire. So we are forcing the player to keep moving in this space. Again, we use the lasers. It's a great indication of where a player is off screen. We're forcing her to run around this pillar. This enemy is stalking her at a very slow pace, surprising her by turning around. And again, this is straight off of YouTube. I didn't record this, but this was all designed specifically to make that player who had no idea we designed it this way do exactly what we wanted them to do. Now again, we put those Greek fire barrels around. The player already knows they explode when you shoot them, and they're peppered all over this area, so they're great traps.
Now, I wonder if the enemy had followed him around that way, or they would use it.
Yeah.
I think this guy didn't really know how grenades work either.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got a different play style. Everybody has a preferred weapon. That's okay. If she wants to throw a grenade, that's her prerogative. saving
It's like
for
for
something
you throw
else.
grenades at her and then
Oh, yeah.
wouldn't know to get out of the way.
But you'll notice now that same barrel, perfect placement.
There you go.
Took it out. So, what we've taught her has stuck, and she knows what she's doing. So I think you'll see it here. Okay, that was the last enemy. No, it wasn't. I'm sorry. The music changed to more intense. So,
Angry enemy.
yeah. Okay. So again, we show exactly where the enemies are coming from. You saw them come through the door. We've got even more smoke in here. This is crazy intense. You can't see what's going on. Everything's on fire. I'm repeating myself. But again, it's the same slow, methodical gameplay. They don't know where she is. They're looking really slowly. You've got a huge advantage here.
How did a level like this start as far as the puzzles go? Like how many iterations of the
Well,
puzzles to start with?
This, I know, I said this see how slow they're moving? They're searching you out. As soon as you do something, they know where you are. But at that point, they've still got the lasers. You still know where they are. Your environment's falling apart. She's about to die. Anyway, sorry. I'm laughing because you're right. I pointed out that this was a puzzle space, and it is in terms of the entire arc of this level. We're in a combat space in a meta puzzle environment. I'm going to explain that in a little bit.
She finally threw her gun away, by the way.
Yeah, she did. Okay, so music flourished. She puts her gun away. Instantly, you know the combat's over. There are no more threats. You don't have to skulk around looking in this big foggy environment. It's just an instant subconscious. Okay, I'm safe. And she's running around and exploring and picking things up. It's another phase of the game. That is it's sort of a reward phase. It's an exploration. I've completed the combat. I'm done. I don't need to fight anymore. I'm just gonna pick up some goodies and then move on.
And I don't know if this was, I assume this was intentional, but like, so I really like stealth genre, and it seems like this is kind of giving the player almost what I'd call like a, sort of like a cinematic stealth thing. So like they sneak around, they feel like they're sneaking, but then like you have the instant relief of like, you know, it's not like there's no surprises. It's not like, oh, they might just jump out at the last moment and surprise me. It's like it's on rails, and you're getting all the good feelings, and then you're kind of guiding them through that, so you can kind of guide the ups and downs rather than sort of keeping them the tension constantly going. You know.
You want to come? And that's not like I'm not upset. That's perfect. That's awesome. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Right, because that's like a different type of genre. Like this feels very much like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Where I'm just getting like woo, and then it's like, oh, okay.
And that's intentional. There's a big emotional curve happening.
Yeah.
Where you're in combat. Oh my God, and then okay, I can relax. And oh my God, there's a maybe even here it's like okay, then things get creepy, and I'm going down a hallway, and then, oh my God, the intensity ramps up, and we plan all of that, and that's something you're going to have to plan as well. So, all right, I'm going to keep going. You'll notice also that everything's on fire. That brought the intensity up, but as soon as the combat was over, it was like, whatever, I'll spend as long as I want.
Everything's still on fire, but it's not hurting me. So
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's all on the outside, on the outskirts. Everything that was covered, that could have burned, that could have hurt you, has already burned. You're safe. And she knows that.
Yes.
So, all right, we're entering another little bit of a hallway area. Again, there's nothing to do here but move forward.
Oh no.
But this is a little bit different than the previous one. The previous one was all about story. There's a lot of story here too. This one is much more action-based than slow and methodical. So, okay. So you notice right off the bat, we've got an enemy who has a flamethrower, puts it on top of the water, forces you under the water. Now at this point in the game, Lara can't stay underwater for very long. And the player knows this because we've had lots of levels beforehand where if you stay underwater for too long, you're going to get damaged. In this part, we force her underwater, and that's going to get scary real quick. So the surface of the water is on fire now. Oil spilled, some sort of explosive, whatever. It's all on fire. We put these branches up right in front of her. It's actually on the screen right now. That are forcing her to duck under it. Once she's under it, everything's on fire up above. What's gonna happen? And you'll notice also we put that little tutorial up there because we're forcing the player underwater. They may have forgotten how to do that. It's just a little reminder, and we do that through play testing. We have lots of people play the game wherever they get stuck or they get something, they put it in stuck. So, okay, story moments here. An enemy was just killed. What is going on? Again, not something a player might pick up right away, but someone else is here. Now also at the exact same moment, we've given a new piece of gear, which is the rebreather, which allows Lara to stay underwater. So where that situation just a moment ago was very stressful, something that, oh my God, I'm gonna die if I stay under here, and I know that because I've died in the past. You've now got this new piece of gear that allows you to stay underwater as long as you want. And we force the player to stay underwater for a long period of time to show them that that's what that does.
But you're taking away the option you have to make underwater be scary and dangerous because now she has a rebreather.
That's correct.
It'll never be a problem again.
Yep, we have. There are other ways to make it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same thing for the rest of the game.
Right. And you'll notice that as soon as she got that rebreather and then moved forward, all the action was gone.
Yeah.
It was just, you're safe now. They're over there, you're underwater over here. Learn how this works. Just swim for a bit.
Yeah,
Figure it out.
and like the music and also the color palette. There seems to be sort of a safe color palette, which is sort of more of the blues columns versus the brights.
Yep.
And so like I feel like that's really synergizing very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I'm not an artist, so I don't think about it.
Some artists thought about that a lot.
All right, so okay, so we're coming out of that little sequence now. We've got a new piece of gear, and now we are entering the puzzle space.
Alright.
All right, so I want to pause here real quick because I want to point out that the next 5 seconds you are going to see, we spent more time on than any other part of the entire game. And it's because there's so much information being given to the player about this entire meta space. And we jam it all in to this very quick reveal moment that we had to make sure everything was perfectly explained. And I mean, the amount of revisions we did on this is crazy. And this is also the kind of thing you're going to learn in this class. Because it's the kind of thing that you do it once and it's like, okay, I did that, it's done. No. Do it again and do it again and play test it. And are they getting it? They're not getting it, do it again. Figure it out, make this right. And before I should have said this first, so before I show you that, this is the meta puzzle space that I was talking about. So the way I like to design a puzzle is you've got, okay, so there's a puzzle here. And this puzzle, the meta puzzle, is actually very simple. It's about figuring out, when you walk in, you're going to see a goal. The goal is an exit behind this giant statue that's in the middle here. And there's a ledge up here that you've got to get to. So I'll explain this after you see it. But anyway, to solve this puzzle takes 3 steps. And those 3 steps are all also individual puzzles. So there's a puzzle here, and a puzzle here. And when you solve this puzzle, you complete step 1 of this. When you solve this puzzle, you complete step 2. When you complete this puzzle, you finish step 3, and you can get up to this ledge and get out. Now, I have a, what do I call it, mantra or plan or something that I use when I approach puzzles. And it's basically the 5 stages where the first stage is the goal. So you walk in and you say, I want that thing, or I gotta get up there, or I need that. And then step 2, but you see that, but you're also like, how do I get that? I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Stage 2 is the tinker phase, where you explore and you're just like, how am I gonna do this? What can I do? What happens if I pull this lever? What if I turn this crank? If it's a lever and crank kind of game, or what is affecting this thing, and what can I affect to make change here? So the tinker phase is going around and exploring all these things. Step 3 is the aha moment, where you're like, I see it, I know what I need to do. And so you, with those things you've been tinkering with, you see how they fit together to solve your problem. Step 4, I call the wrinkle, which is a moment when you execute on that aha moment, you execute on your plan, but something happens that you weren't expecting and kind of screws up your plan. I stole that from Indiana Jones, if anybody wants to know. He always comes up with a plan, and then when he executes it, everything falls apart and he has to adjust. So that's where that came from. But then step 5 is when you actually figure out how to get around that wrinkle once you're already in the execution of this plan, and then solve the puzzle. So those 5 steps I use for these 3 areas. For the meta puzzle, I don't want to get that in depth because it's hard to think of, not from a designer perspective, but from a player perspective, it's hard to think on that level in a really huge space. So the meta puzzle is more about knowing, okay, I need to solve this goal, and to do that, I can do this and this and this, and that's going to get me through. But then, how do I do that? That's where the 5 steps come in. And how do I do that? Well, the 5 steps are there too. And then the 3rd step, okay, 5 steps here, boom, I'm out. You solve the puzzle. So you're going to see that right here. And again, these 5 seconds, so many man-hours of development time across many disciplines. So I'm going to play this a couple times.
Okay, I think I see my exit. The statue's unstable. Looks like I'll have to use the new fire. Got to be more
Okay.
like 5 vessels I can use. Just got to find.
I am going to make this interactive. What did you see?
The explosion offsetting the statue after she climbed up.
Yep. Anything else?
There's still barrels in the water.
Okay.
The illuminated passageway highlighting your exit goal.
Correct. We use lighting to show the goal, make it very bright, make it stand out. We show the statue falling over, which is in fact the goal. To get to that platform that you want to get to, you want to make that statue fall over.
As far as dialogue, she says all that.
She does, and we had to add a lot of that. Because players
Wasn't as
were
obvious
figuring
as you
out.
thought.
No. But that's part of the revision, right? If they're not getting it, we put that in. The barrels, also very important. Now you'll notice, actually I'll play it one more time. Just so you can see it all in context if you didn't see it the first time.
Okay, I think I see my exit. The statue's unstable. Looks like I'll have to use the new fire.
Okay, so yes, the explosion was the big key. The support was on fire. When it burned up, the statue fell over a little bit. We know that the great fire barrels create fire. We see the other supports. Click. I know what I need to do. Now, these 3 puzzles, I usually do them in 3 stages where they get more difficult and one builds on the other. This case is a little bit different where you can do these 2 here and here in either order. So they're about the same difficulty, but this one here is easy, and that's intentional. I call this one a gimme, which is like, we just show them, you know, we've showed them what to do. There's actually 4, 1 is free. So let's say there's a 4th one here. This one happens automatically, which just happened. The support burn, boom, you saw it happen. This one here is really simple. So we'll see that now.
Got to be more Greek fire vessels I can
So
use.
she did the
Just
hint
got to
thing,
find them.
which is her inner monologue and all the yellow glowing stuff. The barrel floats right up in front, exactly in front of her view. It stays there, and it stays there. Yep.
Just got to take out the remaining supports.
She says, I just have to take out the remaining supports. So if you don't know what's going on at this point, you were answering the phone or something while this was playing. So this one here, in front of the statue, was the gimme. It's real simple. And now these two are going to be a bit more involved. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, how did test audiences respond to that? Did they not, like when you first introduced the puzzle, did they just like immediately run away and start looking around for other things? Or was that the problem focusing their attention on the supports or showing them where the exit was, or sort of a combination of all those things?
They ended up exploring, you can actually do these three in any order you want.
Right.
This one is framed up in front of you.
But they would just miss that.
They would miss it, or they would just go off and explore. Eventually they would all figure it out, but there was a lot of kind of running around, like what do I do, what do I do, what do I do, that we didn't want to be wasted time. Sure, there's exploration if a player opts into that. They can go find secret paths and exits and pickups and all sorts of things. But it wasn't having the effect that we wanted. We needed to make it a little more clear. Does that answer? Okay. How are we doing on time?
We are 8:11, so
What does that mean?
we've got to be out at 9. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
Maybe another.
Do you all mind if I keep going? No? So I'll finish up this puzzle space. So actually, I'm going to stop this video because all it does is go to the campsite. There we go. All right. Let me close this. All right. So just to go back to this map real quick. These were the combat spaces here. This was that hallway where we were swimming underwater. We got the rebreather. And then this actually doesn't line up quite right. You come out of this hallway over here where this pool is. That's where we climbed up. And we got the view of the statue right here from this angle. So we're now in this space. And this space maps what I drew there, but kind of tilted on the side. So the statue's here, the exit goal is here, and the three puzzle areas I pointed out that our player doesn't quite know about yet. The gimme was right here in front of the statue. There's another one over here that we're going to run to now, and then the third one is over here. And that'll solve our puzzle. So just point that out. Let me start this one. So you'll notice now, she's running over here. Again, we have a hallway that is lit really bright. It kind of points out exactly where she needs to go. If you opt into the hint, there is a beacon that's sort of behind this area. So you're going to head that way anyway. And you're going to see the lit up entrance and you're going to go right for it. And she does exactly that. Now this is kind of funny. I love that she shoots this. Because we put that in there specifically because we play tested this game so many times and everybody shot that. And so we were like, everybody's going to shoot it, so it's got to do something. So we made it do something. It doesn't do anything useful, but it's fun.
Maybe it's a physics object. It's swung around and shooting. Red.
Now another thing about these meta puzzle spaces is we're kind of off in this area now, going from here to here. And while we're in here, we added in a combat space. Which is fine. Even though this is a meta puzzle, we can mix in other styles of gameplay. Now, this is yet another style of combat. We did the shooting gallery, we did the immersion. This one is a stealth setup. Now, players can play any of these however they want. They could have, we set that shooting gallery up to be successful as a shooting gallery, but really that player can do it however they want. They can run in there and just attack everybody. They might get hit more, but they can do that. The area where we force Lara to move around, sure, you can camp in a corner and try. You're going to get hit a lot, but you can do that. Here, this area is set up to be stealthy, and this player, again, plays this stealthy because of the way we set it up. But it doesn't have to be stealthy. It's just how she does it. Again, and we set that up by, when you come into this space, we force the player underwater. You've now got the rebreather, that piece of gear that allows you to be underwater. So you can stay under there and be kind of secret. And we force it. Now, if we didn't have that beam there, players are just going to swim out and get seen, and the combat's going to start. But by putting that one beam there, we start this entire encounter as a stealth encounter. So she goes underwater. She's got a rebreather. She just learned previously, oh yeah, I can stay underwater now. This enemy's right there. He doesn't see her. So she's learning that she's underwater. They're not going to see me. Sorry, I know it's kind of quick. And we get a reward for a stealth kill. So she's encouraged to play this stuff. Now you come around the side, you'll notice we've set this up perfectly. All these enemies are right on the edge. So she can just swim around, reach up and grab them. He doesn't recognize that you're there, but she's playing it how she wants. Now, why did this player not just decide to pull up on the ledge and kill all these enemies? The main reason is that she doesn't know how many enemies there are. We didn't show the enemies come into the space like we did. So she comes into it, she doesn't know what she's dealing with. She wants to stay stealthy, she wants to attack them.
Got to be more Greek fire vessels I can use.
Notice again, she's put her gun away. There are no more enemies. Now she knows. It's like, okay, I can run around and explore.
Sulfur.
So,
this must have been where they prepared the raw ingredient.
Just by not showing where the enemies come in, and by forcing her underwater in the beginning, putting those enemies on the outside, we've set up a completely different style of combat.
It's the Greek fire.
Now this is a bit of level design trickery here. That statue in the middle is also a weenie.
Got to be
It's a
more
Disney
Greek
term.
fire vessels I can use. Just got to
Disney
find
theme
them.
parks use weenies to guide people around so they know where they're going. Our big statue in the middle is the weenie for this area. When you see it, you're like, oh, there's the statue. I know where I am. So when you come up over this ledge, there's the statue. Okay, I know where I'm at. I just had a combat encounter. I may have gotten turned around 100 different ways. But by putting that view exactly where we want it, right after, especially after...
Got to be more Greek fire vessels I can use. Just got to find them.
This is actually a secret area that she just found. Not all that secret. But she did turn around and look to the right where the level was guiding her to the left. Both with the statue weenie being slightly off to the left and the path curving around to the left. But
Got to be more
she went
Greek
off the
fire
other way.
vessels
She
I
could
can
have
use.
kept going there,
Just
there's a
got
lot
to
more to
find
find.
them.
But instead instead she went back on the main tab. Now this is the puzzle space
More
over
Greek
here.
fire vessels.
And you're going to see those 5
So
steps
many
in
of
action
them.
with this puzzle. So the goal, there's a barrel. I want to get that barrel to the statue. Because I know that by using a barrel on a support on the statue, I can advance my medical to get that statue to fall over. But how am I going to do that? There's barriers. She's down the tinker station, trying to figure out how she's going to succeed when she's placed in this space. Tinkers for a little bit, just let this play out.
There's Greek fire vessels here.
So she opts
Just
into the
need to
hint
move it
again.
closer to the statue.
It tells her, move that barrel closer to the statue. In case, she hasn't quite pieced that together yet, she's getting that information. This barrier's still in the way. She's trying to figure out what to do. You're going to see a physics bug in a minute. That's kind of
There's Greek fire
Come on,
vessels
Lara.
here. Just need to move it closer to the statue.
Does this drive you crazy and Tessa, you're like, just do that thing?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I really do. I love watching people struggle. Because it gives me a lot of information that I need to know, that I know I need to go fix. But also, when they struggle the perfect amount, that's what I'm looking for. When I know that people struggle exactly that much, then I know I got it. You want people to think. You want them to not quite get it right away. So now she figured out she can get multiple barrels. Hey.
That should clear the way a bit.
Alright, I cleared the way. Aha! Now I'm going to pull that barrel, get it through this spot. There's the physics level. And it's going to go right to the statue. So that's the aha moment. I figured it out. Except there's a wrinkle. By burning all that barrier,
If I
set
could
this
use the
brush
water
on fire.
somehow.
Well, crap. Now my barrels are exploding too early, and I can't get my barrel through. That's the wrinkle. So now I got to figure out how to get around this wrinkle. Not that complicated a puzzle, but it makes for an easy talk. Well, there's actually 2 ways to do this. One, you can just pull the barrel over. The other is we put this little post on the side, and you can tether a barrel to support itself over. If you pull it over to the side, the barrel goes to the statue. She knows exactly what to do.
So you have 2 ways of designing the puzzle. One is more like, a little bit more like timing based, right? You have to catch it, you have to let it go through the thing, then catch it, then pull it, so you have to aim. Are you sort of thinking about different levels of player ability where one player might want to solve the puzzle in a more slow, methodical way, setting things up and then letting it happen versus a player who wants to sort of use their like aiming skills and that kind of thing to solve the puzzle?
For something like an immersive sim, sure, we want to set up multiple ways.
But you're just sort of like, there's the like standard approach that you're sort of expecting players to do, and if they find a variant off of that.
They find other ways to
Okay.
That's for this type. For other types of games, for immersive sims, you have a problem. You want to.
And then you have like 3 or 4.
It's not a puzzle. It's a problem. How am I going to get through this problem? I can do it any way I want. With this is a puzzle. This is like there's one solution to get through this. And if they find other ways, great. I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. Unless it's they totally break it. Anyway.
Pointing out how many forms of feedback that exist in a game like this of its scale, that a lot of them probably didn't exist at all as an option. You have voice acting, and you have different lighting effects, and you have different colors and physics, and you're using them all, you're using them effectively, but then these are all options that you have that not everyone making any kind of game is able to do. You can do it on Tomb Raider, but yeah, that's not an option for everyone.
No, it's not, but it shows the types of things you might want to think about when you do lots of playtesting. Even putting your own voice in as a placeholder if you don't have voice actors. We did that too. Anyway, let me keep going. So that's step 2 of the meta puzzle. We've now advanced the statue. Now, this puzzle area is done. So, what I've done here
Looks like I'll need another vessel.
is I gave Lara, she's kind of surveying the area right now, seeing what she's got. No, she realizes she's done. I gave her this zip line, which is a real quick way right back to the center. It's a one-way trip. So if she does want to go back to that area now, as far as I'm concerned, she's done. She never needs to go back. I don't want her to get stuck there. So I give her the zip line. You're out. If you want to go back now, it's a big path around. And so there's no need to do that. And that zip line
Looks
actually
like I'll
keeps
need
her
another vessel.
right at the next place she needs to go, directly in front of her. So now, the zip line came down here, pointed her right around a path that went straight to here, where the next one. So now we're in the third mini puzzle stage. Again, we found our barrel. Okay, stage 1. So on
Still
the
more
edge,
to do here.
not so
I'll be
graceful.
back this way.
She was going to climb back up. But anyway, finding that barrel, same as in the last puzzle. Find the barrel, okay, I know what I need to do. I need to get that barrel to the statue. There's this crane structure in the middle. Now, I actually wonder if this player had played this crane before this video was made. Because she seems to know already. But this is the tinker phase.
But she seemed like she tried to push the barrel because she fell off the edge.
Yeah.
First.
Which you can do. You can push the barrel over the edge.
Oh,
And
can
that's a
you?
problem. Yep. But the solve for this is you're tinkering, right? You get that barrel, you can tether it to this crane. You realize, oh, it's down in the water. Well, I need to get that to the other side. What else can I do with this crane? Again, she doesn't tinker as much as most players do. This is the most accurate video I can find. But the other thing you can do with this crane is spin it around. And she's going to discover that right now.
Can you jump up?
You can actually get on top of it, yeah. So, with the barrel tethered, she's going to spin it around. But the wrinkle here is that, in an ideal world, this player would have tinkered with the crane and figured out that it could spin, and then tethered the barrel to it, the crane goes down, the barrel spins around. When it gets around front, she realizes, oh, the weight of the barrel is stopping me from being able to get it over this wall. That's the wrinkle.
That's why I asked her if you could get on top of it.
You can't. That's one way. Yeah. But if you do that, you can't cut it off. So as soon as you jump off, it goes back down. So anyway, the wrinkle is you can't get the barrel over the wall, and the solve is to add a barrel on the other side, which balances the crane. And then when you come back over here, the barrel's lifted up exactly where you need it. Now she cuts it loose with the crane, takes it in the water. So the previous puzzle is a much better example. I do think this player had played this before. But again, that barrel's going to go right where she wants it. There it is. Meta puzzle is solved. She climbs up on the statue. There's a ramp straight to her. Now, meta puzzle may be solved. Yay! That was a very thinking part of the game, where it's like head scratching. What do I do? How do I get here? How am I going to make that happen? We're going to put her immediately into the most action-packed. You know, it's like no time to rest. We're going to put her immediately into the most action-packed sequence that we have, which we call a run for your life sequence. So at this point, you remember in the hallway before this, there was a guy who her enemy got killed with a sword coming through her, but you didn't see who that was. This is the reveal of that enemy. There they are. They're shooting arrows at you on the other side. And another thing we did is here, here's the statue. It's now fallen over to create a ramp. those enemies are all on a building that's over here. And all this in between is water. So we create a little bit of a barrier between Lyra and the enemy. Not that it's all that realistic. If those guys really wanted to get her, they'd jump in the water and follow her, but it is a barrier. So they're shooting arrows at her, trying to get her that way. That's how we explain it. Now this sequence is very, very limited. Basically, all you need to do is put the arrow on the stick, and you're going to get through it. But there's so much stuff happening, players will die constantly. This area right here, watch this. That beam falls, that gets a lot of people shot. Right. All you have to do is look up and you will get through that entire sequence. There you go. But the fact that so many things are happening, people's heads, they can't do it. So if you've played this 100 times, this is actually really easy and pretty boring. And I know because I played it all the time. There's always excitement going on in the background. Single path to go on, and level design, step it up a notch here. Start to make it very, very obvious where you need to go. Everything you need to interact with is pink and white. You can't always switch to show you where your next path is. Here it turns around, I don't know why. But immediately you'll see fire catch up with us. Forces are exactly where you go. Again, we got that statue down there. The enemies are around this. She knows where she is, even though she's running around in circles. Notice we're very forgiving with the spawns as well. Whenever Lara dies here, she starts pretty much like we don't make her go back and start. All things to keep this being fun rather than frustrating. These are actually acting so far and done hundreds of times throughout the game so far. It doesn't look like it. It looks like it's pretty crazy. Okay. Now, you put these ramps here. Totally unnecessary. It's just very obvious that that's the spot you need to come from. Here, it's just a straight hallway, but it's just have explosives going off, and they can try to intercept. Here's a fake one. I think you're going to head on land. Yeah. You can't actually get to that. At least I don't know any players that have. Maybe it's possible if they found some extra. We don't intend the player to get to that.
Jacob,
It's just a surprise.
I'm out.
And she makes it out anyway. Lara. And now you'll notice we'll go back to the right talk segment, which is exactly where we started this whole talk. We're about to start this entire cycle again. And that's what makes up a video. So, how do I wrap this up?
Right back where you started.
Yeah. So that's the level. There are other types of levels, but that is a puzzle sequence. There are other puzzle sequences in this game. There are combat-focused sequences that have a slightly different approach to it. There are a few different types of sequences. There are hubs, which are giant areas that you can explore and you keep coming back to, and you go off on other adventures and come back to it, and then off on another adventure and you come back to it, and maybe when you come back that space has changed. Those are different areas, but I wanted to do the puzzle stuff because A, it was my focus whenever you came across a puzzle area on the main path of the game. There are actually two types of puzzle areas in the game. There are these side tunes, or we call them side tunes in development. What were they actually called? Something tunes. I don't know.
Tomb Raiders are tombs.
Yeah, they're tunes. But we didn't want to call them side, so they have a fancier name than that. But I didn't work on those, but I did work on all the main path puzzles. But that's why I wanted to focus on this. But if we were to do a puzzle game, these are the kind of things you need to think about. And and especially this kind of stuff. Is the stuff I'll be hoping to mentor you through. Yeah, and if it's a combat focused game, we'll do the same with combat. And if it's a whatever focused game, we'll do the same with that. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. We have one more presentation to hear this evening. I don't know if you'd want to come to the front.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
This is Elizabeth from Skillfund, everyone.
Hi everyone, yeah, as he said, I'm Elizabeth Zide. I'm with Skills Fund. I'm their partnerships marketing manager. Super excited to be here tonight and interface with you guys. We are in the early stages of launching our partnership with HOFT in terms of being their financing partner. So we have some really exciting things happening with that. So when you take a transformative skills training program like HOFT and pair it with what we like to call our anti-loan model, you get something pretty much unheard of when it comes to higher education. You get the opportunity to make an informed, fully empowered decision in your investment in your future. So our anti-loan model, that means that we're incredibly transparent and upfront with all of your rates and everything before you even apply. So we offer one universal, flat, low upfront rate for all applicants. So anybody in this room can apply for a loan, and if you're approved, you all have the same rate, essentially. So we were incredibly proud of the fact that we're able to offer a low upfront rate to everyone. That's incredibly uncommon as far as traditional loans are concerned. So we pride ourselves on the transparency there. We have an amazing partnership site that we've just now launched live, and that's kind of a co-branded joint site between us and HOFT, where you can go and learn all about our loan process, the disbursement process, how the model works, again, all before you apply. We only partner with training programs that are incredibly high quality and do have a high likelihood of actually placing you successfully in a job, like the panel mentioned earlier. That being said, you can only apply for the loan once you've either applied to HOFT or once you've been admitted. So anywhere you are in the process, as long as you apply, you can go ahead and start your Skills Fund loan application. And again, it's as simple as going to our partnership site. That's going to be hoft.skills.fund. I'll have it up on my computer if y'all want to come back at the end of the session, and we can walk through the site, and you can jot it down and look at it later, things like that. But that's where you would go to apply, and you can learn everything that I just said in more detail. We also have a loan calculator on our site, so you can calculate your APR and all the things that you need to know to get your actual monthly repayment. So again, all those things, you can find that out before you even apply. What you'll actually be paying, what your APR will be, your interest rate, all of that stuff you'll know pre-application, which again, we're super excited about the opportunity to be able to be that transparent and upfront with you at this stage of the process. So yeah, it's kind of the high level overview. Me and my counterpart, Simone Hornaday, will be in the back again for any questions. She's from our customer trust team. She knows a lot in terms of just like the deep info in terms of the student experience through the financing process. So yeah, come chat with us, get my card, and we're happy to help kind of empower you guys along the way in terms of getting into this program and getting it all started. So yeah, that's kind of that.
Thank you. I realized I left. Yeah. Yes, sir. All right, so this is a lot to take in for something that hasn't really been discussed very much at all in the past several months. But again, this is happening in January and going through August. So for everyone here that has any interest in what was said tonight, please keep this in mind, because even if you're not a particular student, you probably know someone who is. Because again, we're thinking about people that have gone through established programs to learn the craft, but haven't got their first gig. And there are very particular reasons for that. And hopefully this is the kind of program that will solve some of the problems we've discussed tonight and bridge that gap, and an opportunity to find out the nature of the gap so that we can build a bridge over it. Does anyone have any questions in general, for all the people that have spoken tonight? If you don't want to, you can ask them individually while we're here. Also want to remind everyone who would like more information about it, please sign up on our clipboard before you leave, so we have that information. We'll want to use that very soon.
John, this is an evening program. They might want to know that this is an evening program.
start Mondays and Wednesdays, and then going Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah,
after the
6:30 to
first
9:30.
2 months. So that will,
So if you wanna have a day job while you do it, it's possible. It's gonna be hard, but it's possible.
but this is kind of weird stuff, because what was your first gig making games?
My first gig was at a very small shop in Boston called Reality Bites, which I hear a lot. Do you know it?
No.
Just the name.
Just the name, yeah. It was 10 guys.
Was it BYTES? Was it Bites?
Oh, of course.
Of
Yeah.
course.
It was about, at our lowest we were 10 guys, at our highest we were 20. Working at a small office in Cambridge, and that's what it took to make a AAA game in the 90s. It was a very, very small team. And yeah, that was it.
Did you ship? What was your game?
Yeah, I shipped a game called Dark Vengeance. Please do not look it up.
Hey, you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. I did work on it. Yeah, it was a fun project. It was an early hack and slash, and I'll leave it at that.
Is there anything you had to learn along the way, the hard way, that you wish you would have learned earlier on? Not that there would have been someone around to tell you about it, but again, this was the 90s.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's stuff I kind of already went into. Making games now is very different than it was back then. It was much more about the small team. Hey, I'm going to do this and that and this other thing, and first pass is good enough, and we'll get it out there. And now it's 200-person teams, where the focus is very, very specialized. And so if you're going to go on a team and be the collision person, because that's what they need somebody to do, go through and smooth out all this basic first pass collision that was put in. There's not a place to learn that right now. Yeah. And
Well, because you think about every production team is kind of an assembly line involved in different specialties, and I wonder, especially about people that did that kind of work in the 90s when everything was still, like some genres of first-person shooters were still, I mean, they'd been established at that point, but they're growing so big, so fast, and the demand started requiring the teams to be really big, and then the sales had to be, so much bigger.
Yeah.
And you wonder about the ones that had been working on a project for years and years and didn't learn anything else except their own tasks during that time. Extreme example, Duke Nukem Forever. There are people that spent more than a decade working on that game. And I wonder about their opportunities to find a new gig afterwards, even when it shipped.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to speak ill of anybody.
Oh, no. I guess that really wasn't a question.
No. It was. I mean, that was an unfortunate situation. There were great people on that team. They did great things, and yeah, they may have had problems afterwards because they haven't shipped anything in 10 years or however long. There's so much turnover on that team. I don't even know if anybody was there for the full 10 years. What's up, Sarah?
Well, I just wanted to, Chip comes from the AAA background, but even in indie dev, the expectations of indie are not what they were in the 90s. So it used to be like a single person could put out a game, and it's like, like you think about like Cave Story, Another World, basically 2-3 people put out games that revolutionize how we do games. And now indie devs are expected to do the same thing, almost like, like Firewatch was 12 people. Was it 12 people plus a bunch of outsourcing? Probably. Were they 12 of like the highest experienced people in the industry? Absolutely. Like what they had, one of their, I think their animator was from Pixar or something. So when you're in indie space, you're selling your game now for $15 to $20, but you're expected to put out a level of quality that is honestly not really feasible with an actual 6-person team.
Right.
So I think even if you are like, I wanna go make my own game, I wanna work on this thing, and you're like, I wanna get it to the level of polish that I see from like, what would be the, you know, indie titles, but, you know, I guess I call it AAA indie, you know, things like Journey is like AAA indie, right? Or you know, Firewatch, or Night in the Woods, these highly polished experiences. I think this kind of course would be good for directing it, because all of the things that Chip talked about in his level design are happening in those games, just like maybe it's on a smaller scale, but it's still at a level of polish that you're just not going to see just coming straight out of like art school or design school or anything else.
There's actually a lot of psychology that goes into design. As you can see, we're constantly trying to guess what the player is going to do or force the player to do certain things. And that's stuff you don't learn in game development. Most of the stuff I talk about is not anything I expect a student to come out of school and know, but it's the kind of thing when you put a game together, you've got to get into the player's head. You've got to know that stuff. So yeah, that's what we'll be teaching.
Don Fasell, what do you think about all this?
Well, so, you know, just for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm the chairman of the computer science department at UT, and I teach computer graphics and helped start, you know, the game program that our department has there. And what I just learned tonight is there is a vast difference between what you're going to be teaching and what we teach. I'm fascinated. I think it gives me a
Sign up.
well, considering that my day job is herding professors or cats or whatever you want to call them, this looks like a lot more fun to me. So we'll see if I have any energy left over after a day of that kind of stuff, right? But you know, I mean, this gives me a great. You know, you guys, I've heard you talking about, you know, these differences before, but I don't think I've really appreciated how big the differences are until I've heard you guys give this presentation. I mean, it's really, you know, I'm impressed. And you know, the other thing I'll say, I mean, that gives me a lot of confidence in what you guys are going to do. And of course, I can add to that I already had a certain amount of confidence because, you know, I've been friends with Hussein and Anjum, who but since before they started what is now HOFT Institute, I guess what's that, 35 years ago? Yes. And so I mean, I know what kind of people they are, and I know what kind of an organization they run, and you guys are going to be in the best of hands working with them. So if you add to that the confidence you guys have just instilled that you actually know something. You know, somebody asked me if I was going to teach this, and I said, no, we need people who actually know what they're talking about. I'm now aware of what the gulf is between those two types of people. So that's what I think.
Well, now we have a good team, and now we need some students. And we need them before January. And ideally, we would like them to sign up and go through and commit to tuition before Christmas, if we can do that.
And one more important thing, if you have friends or, you know, people you know would be interested, we are going to do a portfolio review. So not everyone is, we're not just going to let anyone do the program because we don't want to set people up to fail. Like if your skills are not at a level that we believe we can help you, you know, it's like take some time, go back, work on the skill set, then come back. So, you know, if you do want to direct people towards us, make sure that they have, you know, they don't have to have a polished portfolio. That's what we're here to help, but they do need to have solid skills and be ready to commit, you know, their evenings for the next 6 months to really making a game. So
we're gonna build a team to make games. You know, that's the same as any company out there that's looking to hire people to make games. We need the right people.
Something I forgot to mention actually in terms of getting the eagerness going, the HOFT is offering a $1,000 off discount if you guys apply by December 22nd. And you'll see that at the top of our partnership site. Again, that's hoft.skills.fund. But as just as an incentive to, you know, get things going, they are going to offer that $1,000 off of tuition, and that will be incorporated once you apply and all those things if it's by December 22nd. So keep that in mind.
Please take down the websites. I've got them on the board now. So those have gone up as of this week.
I think we have a couple questions back there.
Yeah. Maybe to ask already, how many students are you trying to fill in this first program?
6 to 24.
6 to 24 students.
So I don't feel like it's viable to make anything of significance with less than 6, and 24 is probably all the 3 of us can handle, I would say reasonably.
Would it still be one team? all
We would
that
probably
24?
break them into smaller teams, and then especially once it comes to the 6-month, basically outsourcing, then they would be broken into teams based on the needs of clients.
Yeah.
So you talked about, the need for kind of narrow and deep, on the bigger teams. Like you might be stuck on, hey, you get to do hair,
Okay.
and you get to do walk cycles,
Right.
that's all you get to do, right? So, but I think that the other end of the spectrum is the indie scene where you literally have to be the jack of all trades and master of none.
Well, that's me. So,
Yeah,
so
that's
Chip
fair.
represents the AAA hyper focus on a single thing. I teach myself, modeling and design because I have no formal training in that, but I want to make a game and I want to do it with a relatively small team. So I think that, we're here to help students in whatever they really want to sort of, I think the core skills, the idea of working on someone else's project is actually super valuable for indie as well. Because honestly, I have a day job, I teach at UT. If you're working indie, you're honestly probably going to be contracting in addition to that. So, I think those skill sets still definitely apply.
I'm just thinking that first job, right? So the first job, the biggest companies have the more capability to hire, fresh new faces and bring them in and mentor them. But the truth is, like your first job, a lot of them are, hey, it's a small group, we have a little bit of money, we're doing our thing.
Yep.
And, there's always more opportunity sometimes in those than there is in the, getting in the grind.
I don't disagree at all, but there are a lot of people who they want to work on Call of Duty. That's what they want to do.
Yeah, but they're not that bright, clearly. That's what you're supposed to do is educate them that is the path to pain and suffering.
That aside, if you want to work on Call of Duty, we'll help you get there.
No, it's true. I mean, but it's a different road to hoe.
It is.
Like you say, you're going to be a very small cog in a very large machine.
And you're not gonna make another Call of Duty, there already is one. And there's a Battlefield, so that's Coke and Pepsi, you can't make another one.
Oh, no, you could. They
You
make
try.
them every year. What are you talking about? Over and over and over again. It's a machine.
There will always be another Call of Duty. But, I mean, to your point, if that's the kind of thing you want to get into, then a program like this where we are contracting with other vendors who are looking to us as an outsourcing house to get their work done, maybe what you're doing is working on a model of a certain gun, and that's all you're going to do for a couple weeks or even a month or whatever until it's done and until they approve it. And that is the process that you might be on as a low-level new hire at who's making Call of Duty now? I don't even know. Infinity Ward?
I think you're right.
No, but in the employer, so what are you guys going to do that's going to make me want to hire somebody? One, you're going to be vouching that they have the skills to do it, that they've actually worked on a team. I'm going to get to see them work on a team that's not a pure academic team, right? So just that, what they had to do, it was like a class, and the instructor really wanted you to pass and all that stuff, right? Which is different than what you guys are doing. The other thing I'm looking for is, are they acculturated to actually working? Right? Because the biggest risk with somebody who's straight out of school is, do they even know how to hold down a job? Are they going to be a problem child for them?
Yep.
And are they a finisher? Right? So the other thing that you teach them is how to finish.
Yeah, it's that unknown risk that you take on a student who's unproven. You don't know if they're...
Yeah, so make them suffer and they'll be happy.
Yeah. We'll put you through the ringer. Don't worry about it.
Gordon saying that says a lot of it aligns with what you're looking for right out of, for a student coming out of school and potentially being a full-time employee. I've had the opportunity to mentor the Deanie Sam's Academy and Austin Community College and UT's Gamma and Art Institute a lot, and Guildhall up at SMU, and others. And typically I would say probably one of the best graduate style game development programs I've seen is the Denia Sam's, but they still kind of hit it wrong in a way that 3 to 4, maybe even 5 or 6 weeks into it, they were still establishing that notion that their ideas are grander on this swan song game that they're going to finally have that opportunity to make in a team that they're finally on is going to be some kind of swan song. It's going to get them a job. And the fact is that they spend a long time spinning wheels, having everybody take turns being the lead designer or some people being producer, so that you kind of get that whole studio atmosphere, which is what it was about, but it also kind of hurt them, because at the end of it, you have a finite amount of time, and what you were saying about if somebody's going to want to be a prop developer for Infinity Ward, and they want to get a job at, or they want to get a job at id, or they want to get a job at Arcane. I have people that I've worked with that are phenomenal artists, and they still can't get that job that they want to out of Arcane because they've spread themselves thin on an indie team where they're really trying to focus on something that's more niche, and they want that single. I want to be working on one prop while I'm working on that one prop until I'm done with that one prop or that one character, and I want to take it from concept to finish. And a lot of what I've seen really beneficial are some of these super high-end professionals taking programs on especially on the character development programs. Those are some of the ones I've seen that are really leading the way into leveling up somebody's career, is that it's finally giving them that. It's finally giving them something that they're not just all trying to hit the lowest common denominator like in normal schools. You kind of have to. Even UT, it's the lowest common denominator. ACC, Art Institute, even at Guildhall, they kind of have to teach down to the lowest common denominator and the slowest students in the room that were able to get in. And so you being a little bit more stringent on what you're trying to do, plus being able to personalize that towards saying well, maybe this person needs to kind of work on themselves, or maybe these two kind of people could kind of form a dynamic little art house duo and be kind of working off each other. I think that's what the industry needs, is because I want to hire somebody that comes out of it that's ready for a pipeline. Whether it's programming or even producing, they could come in and they didn't really have their hand held. They were in fact being told what to do, as if the past 6 months has been a profession, has been their first job. And I think you treating that way would be how you could scope those students into finishing the program. Might not be the same kind of portfolio that they'd end up coming out of Guildhall or Denia Sam's or something like that, but they might have a little bit more focus, especially if they're trying to do something like you're talking about, like going into a larger studio. People coming out of Guildhall are having a hard time getting into a large studio because it's all that cruft that goes with the program of a 4-year institution that kind of slows you down from actually being able to focus. Now once you're a professional, if you want to level up your skills, you spend this weekend you start doing it. It's hard to even see myself going back to school because I'd love to go to school. Are you kidding me? School was fun, but at the same time, I can't spend 16 weeks learning something basic. I'll start tonight, and I think that's the kind of thing that you could maybe tap into. That's definitely what we're hiring for. Yeah.
Well, I know we're running out of time, but I'll say even when I'm hiring contract work from artists for my very small indie game, even then, when I talk to students, I still have problems getting the quality of work I expect, because they're not used to meeting my specifications. They're used to making the character they want to make, and they're not gonna we need to teach them how to work with somebody else's vision. This is my idea. This is the poly count I'm expecting and the format I'm expecting, and these are the different things this model needs to do, and you need to meet that specification or it's not going to be good enough. And that's even true, as I said, for indie scene, so it's even more so in AAA. But I think across the industry we need to raise the bar of our students to really get them jobs.
Attention to detail.
Yeah.
Following direction. That's a big problem with a lot of people, and people who are out, been out for a while. It's just they'll read what they're expected, but they'll skip. They'll just miss a bunch of stuff. And it's okay, you did this, and this. And all this other stuff you didn't do. So that's not what I wanted. So.
Well, it's not even just on the students, it's on the instructors as well. And these programs, they're the same instructors that taught the same class for 4 years in a row, they end up teaching a lot of the same material for the 4 years versus like, you know, this is the game industry. You kind of need to, 6 months from now, you're not going to be teaching the same stuff. You're going to be teaching something else, and it needs to change that quickly, with that much agility. So that's
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 9 o'clock. We're going to get someone to come in and throw us out. Thank you to all of you, and thank you very much. Please tell other people about this program. Definitely word of mouth is our best asset right now.